One that could be talked about now, maybe this is for you, KP. How do you think liquid assets versus our fixed assets will affect the way we invest in the future? So people are talking about what, obviously that's cash versus what they've got their fixed assets. Do you think we need to be aware of that when we're starting to understand, like Tony's just presented something talking about active management, understanding your investment classes and where you get real benefit from having good quality assets? What do you think this is for Max? How would you answer his question? Understanding personal liquidity versus fixed assets.
Paul, that's a great question. And I think the way we handle it is to make sure that there's always enough emergency cash for people to rely on. The first thing that undoes an investment strategy is if people get fully invested and then something happens to them and they have to actually tap into their growth. The other thing that we do is usually do a pronged approach where we have emergency cash, people to live off their cash, have liquid growth investments, and will have longer term growth investments as well. What this does is it spreads out the income over a long period of time and helps feed the cash. If we don't have emergency cash, if we don't build that into our equation, and it's just basically, it can be very different for different people. It could be having a year's worth of income necessary. It could be 6 months worth. For some people, it's 2 years worth. Then no investment strategy needs to be unwound when we have a market where you might have to draw on a little bit of growth. And coming back to what Tony said before, people who have felt the need that they have to tap into their superannuation under emergency situations because they're short is really about the fact they probably didn't have a cash buffer that they could lean on during those times.
So what you're saying is have a structure in place that will work for you and your goals, regardless of what the market's doing. So the market's less of a concern. The strategy will work.
Growth is irrelevant in the overall picture. It's about the quality of the investments that you have and what they're doing for you. And as both Roy and Tony were talking, it's about the structure. So making sure that it's set in the right structure so you're not paying too much tax if you need to sell anything in the future, but making sure that the need to sell is less and less because you've got it packed with some cash buffer at all times.
Yeah, great insight. Thanks, KP. Much appreciated.